law. You would agree with me, wouldn't you, that in America, no one is above the law?
Of course.
Okay. And in our system of government, it's Congress that makes the laws, the executive branch that executes the laws, and the judicial branch, when there's a dispute, that says what the law is. Is that right?
Within the context of separation of powers, yes.
Okay. And the reason that due process is so fundamental to America is before we put the entire weight of the federal government and snatch someone off the street, we might want to ask, hey, do you have something to say about that? Might we have the wrong person? And in the case of Mr. Garcia, the Trump administration admitted in court that they mistakenly deported him to El Salvador.
Well, I don't believe he was wrongfully deported. He's an Salvadorian citizen
That's not
illegally
my question.
in the United States.
Okay.
No court can tell me how to conduct foreign policy. They can't tell me what I have to say to a president of another country, nor do I need to tell them what I told the president of another country, because I can't conduct
just
foreign
asking you,
policy. I'm not going to tell you what they are, and I don't have to, because we conduct the foreign policy of the United States, and I can't conduct diplomacy with a
And
foreign
so-
leader if I come to committees and tell you what they said to me,
Right.
what I said to them,
you-
and more certainly a
Now,
court can't
so-
tell me to.
What if one of the most heated moments in Congress wasn't about who asked the question, but who refused to back down? Today's hearing featured a tense exchange between Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Representative Ted Lieu over immigration, executive authority, and the administration's foreign policy. Within minutes, the discussion escalated into a constitutional debate over the separation of powers and the limits of judicial authority. Watch closely and decide for yourself who made the stronger case. Before we jump in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments where you're watching from.
Recognized Representative Lieu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Secretary Rubio, thank you for being here today. As a member of the legislative branch, I don't have a special exemption to violate the law. You would agree with me, wouldn't you, that in America, no one is above the law?
Of course.
Okay. And in our system of government, it's Congress that makes the laws, the executive branch that executes the laws, and the judicial branch, when there's a dispute, that says what the law is. Is that right?
Within the context of separation of powers, yes.
Okay. And the reason that due process is so fundamental to America is before we put the entire weight of the federal government and snatch someone off the street, we might want to ask, hey, do you have something to say about that? Might we have the wrong person? And in the case of Mr. Garcia, the Trump administration admitted in court that they mistakenly deported him to El Salvador. The Supreme Court, in a 9-0 decision, said the Trump administration has to facilitate getting him back. Do you believe the administration has to follow that Supreme Court order?
Well, I don't believe he was wrongfully deported. He's an Salvadorian citizen
That's not
illegally
my
in the
question.
United
Do you believe the
States.
Trump administration has to follow the Supreme Court 9-0 unanimous decision?
Within the context of separation of powers.
Okay.
No court can tell me how to conduct foreign policy. They can't tell me what I have to say to a president of another country, nor do I need to tell them what I told the president of another country, because I can't
I'm
conduct
just
foreign
asking you,
policy.
do you believe the Trump administration has to follow the unanimous Supreme Court
I believe we
decision?
are following it.
Okay, so my next question is, what steps have you or the State Department taken to facilitate the return of Mr. Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
The conduct of our foreign policy is an executive function, and how I conduct
I'm
it,
just
I don't need to
asking
share
you.
with you.
Well,
and
let
I
me
don't
ask you
need to share with the court.
Have you or the State Department taken any steps to facilitate?
We've taken
the
steps,
return?
but I'm not going to tell you what they are, and I don't have to, because we conduct the foreign policy of the United States, and I can't conduct diplomacy with a
And
foreign
so-
leader if I come to committees and tell you what they said to me,
Right.
what I said to them,
you-
and more certainly a
Now,
court can't
so
tell me to say
you
that
have
either.
taken steps to facilitate Mr. Garcia's return.
We've made those.
And-
We've made that assertion, and we've made those assertions in court, and
All right,
we've
thank
complied.
you. I appreciate that. I'd like to ask you now about Ukraine. On August 24th, 2022, you tweeted the following. In the past 6 months since Putin's criminal invasion of Ukraine, Ukrainians have shown incredible bravery and strength as they fight to defend their homeland. On Ukraine's Independence Day, the free world applauds their courage and celebrates Ukraine's sovereignty. And then also in 2022, you said the people of Ukraine are tough people who will never accept being ruled by Putin. I want to ask you, I assume you continue to believe what you said in 2022, right? That we should celebrate Ukraine's sovereignty and that the people of Ukraine will never accept being ruled by Putin, right?
Yeah, that's why we're trying to end the war.
All right. On April 30th, 2018, you tweeted, glad to see State Department confirm delivery of Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine. The U.S. should continue empowering Ukraine and other allies to defend against the threat of Russian aggression. You would agree with your prior statement that the U.S. should continue to support Ukraine against Russian aggression, right?
We've supported them more than anyone in the world.
All right. Unfortunately, it appears Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth went rogue and decided unilaterally to stop support for Ukraine earlier this year. Various news organizations reported that Secretary Hegseth paused military support to Ukraine without President Trump's knowledge. I'm going to read you from one article dated May 6. Quote, Pete Hegseth canceled military aid flights to Ukraine just a week into Trump's second term without the president even knowing, according to Reuters. The order initially sparked mass confusion within the administration as national security officials in the White House, the Pentagon, and the State Department couldn't figure out who ordered the halt in flights. This is yet another example of the chaos and lack of cohesion that Hegseth has brought to the Pentagon from day one. Did Secretary Hegseth tell you before he ordered the halt in flights to Ukraine of military weapons?
I can't comment on that because I don't remember that. I don't remember ever hearing that, to what you're claiming now.
So your understanding is he never told you he was going to halt these flights?
I just know we're providing them assistance now, but the war ultimately has to end.
In 2016, you stated the following: from his repression of the Russian people and the assassination of his critics, to his dangerous invasion of Ukraine and the occupation of Crimea, to his threats against our NATO allies in Central and Eastern Europe, to the war crimes committed by Russian forces, Putin's Russia is a threat to global stability. You would agree with your prior statement, right, that Putin's Russia is a threat to global stability?
I would agree that in my role as Secretary of State, my job is to bring Russia to the table to end a war, and that's what we're trying to do right now. We're trying to end a war so that more people don't die.
Thank you. And trying to end the war, I simply note that Putin on Palm Sunday launched a barrage of missiles, killed a bunch of civilians. Right before his conversation with Trump recently, he launched a bunch of missiles, killed a bunch of civilians. So clearly, Putin is giving the middle finger to you and to the president. I urge you to defeat Putin on the battlefield. That's the only way to get him to the negotiating table. I yield back.
That exchange highlighted two very different views of how government should operate. Representative Ted Lieu focused heavily on the role of the courts and argued that executive officials should comply with judicial rulings regarding the deportation case he referenced. Secretary Rubio responded from a different perspective. His central argument was that conducting diplomacy is an executive responsibility and that discussions with foreign leaders cannot simply be disclosed during congressional questioning because of the nature of international negotiations. Whether viewers agree or disagree with Rubio's position, he consistently returned to that constitutional argument instead of discussing the details of diplomatic conversations. The hearing then shifted to Ukraine. Representative Lieu referenced several of Rubio's past public statements supporting Ukraine and questioned whether the administration's current approach was consistent with those earlier positions. Rubio acknowledged America's support for Ukraine while emphasizing that his current priority as Secretary of State is pursuing negotiations aimed at ending the war. Rather than revisiting years-old statements point by point, Rubio repeatedly redirected the conversation toward ongoing diplomatic efforts. That contrast became one of the defining moments of the hearing. Supporters will likely see Rubio as defending executive authority and maintaining discipline under pressure. Critics may argue that he avoided directly answering several questions. Ultimately, viewers can judge which approach they found more persuasive. If you're enjoying this breakdown, hit the like button and subscribe for more congressional hearings, political analysis, and major Washington developments. Your support helps us continue covering these stories. Congressional hearings are designed to test public officials, and exchanges like this often generate sharply different reactions depending on how people interpret the Constitution, executive authority, and foreign policy. Regardless of political preference, hearings like these give voters an opportunity to hear arguments directly from elected officials and members of the administration. Now it's your turn. Who made the stronger case in this exchange? Secretary Marco Rubio or Representative Ted Lieu? Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest political coverage. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.